Hi guys, in today's video, I'm going to talk about the reality of skill acquisition in aerial. I'm going to talk about my own personal training experience with a skill that I have been working on rope and share more about what it has actually taken me to be able to get to the point that I'm at with it, and a little bit about like my background and the foundations that I had before I started working on that skill. So I think because of social media, it can be incredibly hard to understand how easy or difficult certain things that we see online actually are. If a high level aerialist is performing a challenging skill, but they've been working on it for a number of years, they've got a lot of experience and a lot of strength, they tend to make things look easier than they actually are. And so I think that while social media is a brilliant tool for being inspired, for finding coaches, for connecting with other people that, share common goals and interests, it can also kind of warp our perception of what we should be able to do and leave us feeling really disheartened when we can't immediately learn something, or we don't understand what our body needs to actually acquire certain skills. A lot of times we also see posts where people are like, I can do X skill. I learnt my first X skill. I've finally unlocked X skill. But we don't have any information about how long they've been training, how long they've been training that skill, whether they had a background in like dance or gymnastics as a kid. Like, we don't have any context around what it's actually taken them to learn the specific skill. And so we end up comparing ourselves and being like, well, why is this taking me so long? Why can't I learn this? And a lot of times the reality is just simply that it's a really hard thing that you're trying to achieve, and it's going to take you more time than you think. The skill I want to talk about today is a roll down on rope. And I recently was able to do two roll downs back to back. This felt like a massive personal achievement in my own training because the roll down itself, just a single roll down, is actually really hard. So let's talk a little bit about my experience with C shaping before we actually look at my experience training the roll down. Before I started working on the roll down, I did have some experience with C shaping. I could already roll up on a hoop, on top of a hoop, right? You can see me doing that here. So I have been working on this for maybe 2.5 years. When I first started working on it, I was not doing it correctly. I used videos on Instagram to try and figure it out myself. Classic. But I was able to learn it well enough that when I finally got coaching on it, I could like properly refine the movement. And now it's extremely comfortable and familiar for me. So, a couple of years already working on C shaping movements, so I was not brand new to C shaping. I could also do a kind of all right roll up on a rope in a hip lock. So I'm already wrapped in the rope. This is not completely unsupported, but it is a lot less supported than when I'm doing this on a hoop. You can see I'm going from a horizontal position to a vertical position, which is fine but not ideal. The real goal would be to do this staying completely horizontal. But again, this is just another example of working on C shaping on the apparatus that I was then doing roll downs on. So, like I said, I'm not brand new to C shaping. I'm not brand new to the concept of rolling up and rolling down. The other thing to give context around quickly for anyone who doesn't know is that I've been training aerial since 2019, and I started my physical fitness journey in 2011. So there's nothing prior to that that would give me any kind of like advantage to training roll downs on a rope. So, just to completely smash through the belief that we should always be able to do a skill the first time we try it, here are two videos of me trying to do a roll down for the first time. And this was April the 28th, 2025, that I first had a go at this skill. And you can see quite clearly from these videos, I can't do it. I am holding on to the rope to help me go from the meat hook position to the back balance position. I had only just started working on back balance on rope anyway, so I kind of understood where I was trying to go, but I didn't feel like I had a lot of control with this pathway. And then the rest of it from there was just kind of a catastrophe, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where my body is going. And yeah, this is just, yeah, I did my best. But this is a great example of how the harder a trick is and the more specific the technique is, the less likely we are to be able to do it straight away. And that's a really normal thing. We need to normalize this more. So, despite finding this really challenging, I was like, "This is great. I wanna train this. I wanna learn how to do this properly. I love the aesthetic of somebody doing this really well, and I want to have roll downs, like, in my toolkit on rope." I think it's such a beautiful way to travel down the rope, and I actually liked the fact that I couldn't do it because I was like, "This is a challenge. This is something where I can improve my aerial skills where I'm clearly lacking." Like, I'm strong, but not strong specifically for this. And I don't fully understand the pathway yet. So it was like something where I could really push myself as an aerialist, right? And I started training it. I wouldn't say I've worked on this every single week since April. I've probably had periods of time where I've worked on it more, and then I've had chunks of time where I haven't worked on it at all. I'm very much someone who likes to cycle through multiple skills at once because it helps me to not be super attached to any particular skill. Like, if I'm focused just on one single thing, sometimes I find it a bit disheartening if I'm not making the progress I want. So I like to rotate through several different goals at once. This is just what works for me personally in terms of like keeping my interest with training. So yeah, I've been working on this pretty consistently over a period of 6+ months. One thing that I wanted to mention, which I forgot to add in, is just talking about the training sessions themselves. So, I would obviously warm my body up and I would do some roll ups on rope to kind of prepare for the roll downs themselves. That made my core feel super, super warm. But because the roll downs felt really challenging, there was a lot of pressure around my torso and my abdomen. I only did about 2 to 3, occasionally 4 attempts at rolling down. So the volume was actually really quite low. I was consistent with my training, but I did not do tons and tons of volume in a training session because when something is kind of at the top of your limits, like the top of your strength, it's really important not to overtrain it. And obviously, we want to be avoiding injury. So, I also want to be clear that with some of these harder skills, you don't need to do tons and tons of volume. It's about quality of movement rather than quantity and just being consistent enough with the skill work. I'm going to share a little bit of progress. You can see here I'm getting the hang of the roll down, like I'm not having to put my hand on the pole to go from the meat hook into the back balance, but I'm still losing the C shape as soon as I start to face the floor. I kind of just fall into the second meat hook position, which is fine because nothing I'm doing here is unsafe. This is completely safe, but I haven't quite figured out how to slow down that part of the roll down. So this is the main bit that I've been trying to drill to really kind of learn and understand what I'm supposed to be doing with my body. And so, yeah, 6+ months, and I finally am able to do two in a row. And this is the video of me doing it. So, I'm pretty happy with this, even though there's lots of room for improvement. There's still a bit of a fall into the second and third meat hook position, but the overall kind of control and speed is relatively consistent through the rest of it. And like I said, the fact that I was able to do two in a row was such a huge achievement because this is so intense on your core and your obliques and your rib cage. you have so much pressure from the rope on quite a sensitive part of your body. And so not only are you moving through the C positions, but you're also fighting to push against the rope to, protect your abdomen basically. And then I'm going to share another video that I did a week after this, where I finally am able to start slowing down the C position where my chest is facing the floor. So I was missing this part through my training. Prior to this particular session, where I was struggling to understand how to C shape into the rope when my chest was facing the floor because I felt like gravity was pulling me down. It turns out if you C shape into the rope here, it actually slows you down. But it's taken all of this time and all of this repetition to actually be able to do it, for it to just suddenly make sense in my body. So the whole point of this video is to kind of show you that a lot of times with skills, especially as they get harder, it takes longer to achieve them. This is over 6 months of focused training to get to this point, and I still don't feel like I'm sort of, completely satisfied with where I'm at with the roll down. I still want to keep working on it and keep refining it and keep getting it to a point where I can slow down every single part of the movement. But it's 6 plus months of training with a couple of years of experience of C shaping, with a number of years of experience strength training, right? So if we look at all of this, this should tell you how challenging this is, and what it actually takes to like build a foundation to even be able to start training some of these skills, and then what we should expect in terms of progress. Like, if I'm working with a client and they do my coaching program for 12 weeks, and by the end of that 12 weeks, they can do a straight arm invert, and they couldn't when we started. When we started together, they were already really close. They already had quite a lot of strength and the foundations in place. And then I just gave them the right path in order to build the remaining strength that they needed to build and unlock that in their body, right? If I'm working with somebody who has never trained straight arm strength before and they want a straight arm invert, they're not going to get it in 12 weeks. They might be looking at, you know, 12 to 18 months. And that's like a normal period of time to achieve certain skills in. There are some skills that I know if I decide to start working towards them, it's going to be a year to 2 years to be able to get them, because the amount of foundational work I would need to put into them to get to a point where I could then start effectively training that skill, like, it's just a long process. And so I think really I just wanted to share this because I don't feel like there's a lot of this sort of online where you can really understand the context around how somebody has got from not being able to do the skill to being able to do the skill. And I want everybody to understand that things can take longer, and that's fine and normal. And it's just a case of like continuing to be consistent and show up and putting the work in. And, if you can learn to enjoy that process, like the process of just showing up and doing your training session on the way towards the skill, you'll just have a much better time. It took me a long time to get to a point where I could just really fall in love with trying and failing over and over and over and over again, because every single one of those failures, they're not even really failures, right? But every single one of those attempts at trying to do the skill that I couldn't yet do, and all of the time spent working on the strength and the mobility and the body control to support that, that's like the best part. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope that having some context around what it actually takes a human body to achieve certain skills is like useful to see. And of course, it's different for every single individual. So I'm just sharing my experience with my training, but it will be different for you and your body. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to see more, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.